Welcome in, guys. Right on. Got a few people starting to show up in here this morning. We'll give it a couple of minutes, guys. Just bear with me. We're gonna wait for a few more people to come in. If you're new to the live, welcome in. This week we're concentrating on the Folsom technology, trying to get a better understanding of the flutes, how the process was done. If you missed yesterday, I'm going to recap it here in just a minute. Looks like we've got a few people starting to show up. Excuse me. Guys, welcome in. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Give it a couple more minutes. I had several people that requested they wanted to watch the setup for that second flute. I'm going to try to do that on camera today, or on live today, I guess it's. And hey, good morning, Dennis. Right on, man. Glad you made it in this morning. Was checking out your live last night. Looked like a pretty sweet camp set up there at the event that you're at. Got to be jealous of sitting around a campfire for the evening. Pyro, hey man, how you doing? Awesome, guys. We got some folks showing up now. I'm gonna wait just now. It's 8 o'clock. We'll start to recap. Guys, if you were in yesterday, last week I'd kind of posed the question to the group. Wanted to see if there'd be some interest in trying to reproduce these the Folsom culture, the flutes, and the style of points. And I've got several casts. This is a point style that I've been working on for a long time. It's very frustrating, and so I figured it was something I'm doing anyway. I might as well bring you guys along with me on the journey. So yesterday, like I said, we were getting closer to this particular point. This is the Berry County Folsom, they call it, from Berry County, Missouri. It was found just north of where I live, so I'm kind of starting in a region that's close to the house here. This is an actual bass, an artifact Folsom bass that a friend of mine gifted me, that was found in a creek within about 15 or 20 minutes of where I live. So I know they were in this area. I don't think it was a heavy population, but I do know they were here. So anyway, what we're going to do, yesterday we were able to get this nice flute to come off, and on the second flute we had I don't want to say, yes, Dennis, they're crazy thin, and that's kind of what I'm looking at today on this other side. Everybody said they wanted to see me set it up. We tried the flute yesterday at the end, and I rushed it, and I knew that it was not quite set up the way it needed to be. So I lost a little bit of my isolation on this dome, so I'm going to have to bring in the margins to try to reset that convexity. And then we're going to see if we can drive another flute off there. Now, one of the things about some of the Folsoms, when they got so thin, sometimes they were just fluted. They had some that were fluted on just one side. All right. And we took that face down, and you'll be able to see how it lowered. You can see how that edge it's almost center line, but it's lowered, and we're going to try to just rip flakes straight down to start creating that hollow ground that we were working on yesterday. Similar to this cast here. And you can see, again, I'll show you now. Guys, if you get bored seeing, all this stuff, just tell me. Coffee is a good thing, Dennis. And you see how those flakes are almost like a hollow ground, the way that they really accentuate that center ridge. So that's what we're going to try to do again on this side. and really isolate that ridge, because since I took off part of it yesterday, it's going to make it more difficult to get a flake started that's going to run with any distance. So like I said, we're going to bring in these margins by just going straight down. And I'm not trying to push these in. It's almost, if you've ever got a chance, well, I can show you. You see the edge angle on that, how they're not pushed in. It's almost like an axe grind bevel. They're really tight and shallow flakes. They're not driven into the piece. Sleepy Oak, good morning. Steve, you found me on Facebook, man. Thank you for the friend request. Now this live this morning, guys, is going to be pretty pressure flake heavy because of what we're trying to do. And at the moment, I'm just trying to turn this edge so we can do the same thing on both sides. We're going to try to rip those flakes and get them to really accentuate that center ridge. Not as worried so much with the profile. I am going to start bringing the margins in because we're still not quite a little over a quarter of an inch, maybe in that area, too wide. So I'm trying to go off of the information that I've got and the average sizes and all that stuff, and try to keep us within that and still try to keep it within the same realm of possibility as that one. That's a beautiful point out of a questionable material for this area. It's just a raw Burlington is what it appears to be. And some of it around here, it does work good, but it's nothing like some of the slicker, super fine material that's found elsewhere in the range of the Folsom culture. Boy, I'm tongue-tied this morning. All right, so what we did there, and we'll show you again, and then I'm gonna see if we can get that second flute to go. Try to get plenty of rock dust on the edges of that, because this is going to be, like I said, it's going to be pretty pressure flake heavy on this live today, because just simply what I'm trying to do, we're beyond hitting it with anything other than when I'm trying to flute it. So I'm going to be up here where I can see the monitor quite a bit easier. So if you guys have got any questions, be a great time to ask them, and I'll try to field and answer as many of those as I can. You'll see after I run this series here that I'm not trying to push them in. I'm just trying to get them to create a ridge again, like we had yesterday before I rushed that flute. I should have waited, but I was excited after that first flute went so well that I thought, yeah, we can get both of them on camera today. That would be really cool. I'm just picking off those little deltas in between. Now you can see how that drastically changed that profile. You see how those flakes almost hollow ground right at the edge of that, and then they come up. That's what we're trying to do to isolate that ridge down the middle. without that isolation, the ridge is just, it's not sturdy enough to be able to run that force down as far as we'd like it to. Sweet, sweet, Dennis says. All right. But this is also the point where putting this kind of pressure on there greatly increases the chances of breaking it just from the flaking. So I'm trying to be really mindful of the ends, the ears. When I'm putting pressure, I'm trying to keep those kind of floating out here in space whenever possible, or I'm not cranking down on that, because you push down on these little pointed ears and they will just pop off. An elliptical bevel, thank you. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. And it's, if you look at, like I said, the original one, when they were setting that flute up, it's the same. Now those are a little bit spaced a little farther apart than this one is on the second face. The hand is not but a hook. Hey guys, Blake, thank you for the likes. I appreciate it. That may help us get a few more people in here, guys. I can't understand why we've only got six folks in, and we should be past our 10-minute penalty phase. So hit those likes and help get a few more people in here. Let's set this one up to. All right, now this other side, I'm going to try to, it's a little bit thinner, and what's really weird is on the original, it's got a side that's was a little bit thinner and didn't let the flake carry, plus it looks like they tilted it just a little when they fluted it. So it looks like the majority of the mass on this one is up in this area here and a little bit right here. So this next pass over here should help adjust that and isolate that a little bit better. Now on the second side, on the second flute side, that the one that we've got that broke during that process, you can see that the flutes are a little bit finer on the second face usually, because of the way they're trying to set up from the removal of the first one. This one I'm trying to do, since we're resetting the flute from I don't want to say failed attempt yesterday, because we did get a flute, it just wasn't very long. But you can see how it's starting to get a little bit more of a ridge down the center. So what we're going to do now is take this base in and reset the platform to flute with. And like I said, guys, I appreciate you being in here and everything. It's hey, there we jumped back up a little bit. I was worried that we were going to be shut down and not have as many folks in here. I appreciate you guys coming in and sharing this with me. And I'm trying to learn. I'm hoping that if you guys are trying to learn, you're learning something. And if you have knowledge that you obviously, you see that that would help me, shout it out, man. I appreciate all of it. You're going to see the wins, the losses, all of that stuff right here as it happens. So just bear in mind, I'm not trying to show you how I'm going to make this beautiful point. I'm just working through the process and hoping that it works. Gippy, I've been napping for on and off for almost 30 years. but really got more serious about it like in the last 7 or 8 years, probably the last 8 years. And then shortly thereafter, I switched over to traditional tools, and that's all I've used for the last, I guess, 7 or 8 years almost. All right. We got that down a little bit, but I have to build some convexity into it. Well, when the little ears get, the edges of that get sharp and hooked like that, boy, you're just waiting for it to grab on something and pull off. So I'm trying to be careful with that. I'm trying to maintain, you're just waiting for it to grab on something and pull off. So I'm trying to be careful with that. I'm trying to maintain the size so that we're in the same ballpark. I know it's not going to be identical, but we're going to try to get really close to this profile. I've got more to come in on the sides, and we're going to do that as we... You were 4 when I started. Thanks, I appreciate that, Steve. That's nothing like making me feel old. So yeah, I've been at it on and off for a long time. I started when I was a kid, just the fascination with arrowheads. I've got a small collection that some were picked up by my grandpa and some me. My first arrowhead that I ever found, first full one, and not just a piece or a preform, was a Dalton. It was a beautiful Dalton. It's still in my collection, and I was just hooked. I needed to know, how they did it. Through my childhood, when I didn't have any idea, and those of you, Dennis, you were 30 years old. Well, I was 25, 26-ish when I really started dipping my toe in the pool, but I had messed around before that, but had no idea. So Dennis, you and I are pretty close to the same age. I will be 55 next year, so getting a little long in the tooth, What I'm doing here is trying to build an isolation for this, because there's a little bit of a flat spot right behind this 68 this year. Right on. But I'm trying to build some convexity from the base to the tip again, because I made a big flat spot here on that failed flute yesterday. So it may take a couple of pressure rounds to get in there to build that back for us, so that there's got to have a place for that flute or that flake to start and that bulb to take off from. So that's what we're, and all this adjusting back and forth, that's all we're trying to do, is just make a spot that flute will travel the farthest that we can make it travel. See, that little series right there helped quite a bit. Yeah, Gippy, that's what I grew up on a little creek, and tried to learn by that, and now that's really all I work. Thank you, Gippy, I appreciate it. Now, we're working on a particular point style in here today, but if you'd like to see some of my other work, go check out my profile. I've got a lot of my finished work in there, and then I do post on all my other, social media stuff. I've got Instagram, Facebook, I've got an Etsy shop, I've got a YouTube channel. So I'm out there if you're looking. And I think all the links to that stuff is on my profile. So if you want to check out some of that, feel free to do so. Guys, I appreciate all the likes and shares, all that good stuff, the follows. If you've got any questions, feel free to shout them out or type them out. You know, you can type them all in, uppercase letters if you're wanting to shout it out. Have a cup of coffee. Tell me where you're from. Gippy, where are you from? So what I think is cool about this format is that, yeah, you may be halfway across the world or the country from me, but I have actually met some people that are in my geographic area and have been able to nap with and meet with people that I've met on here. So I just think that's an incredible concept. Jake, what's going on, man? Southeast Alabama in the house. Dennis, right on. I'm just working on a Folsom today, guys. We're going to work on this one till we flute it or break it. You know, it's just a rock and we're just trying to learn, so that's the mentality that I'm trying to keep on it, because it is an extremely frustrating point style, especially with these tools. You know, I know there's a lot of folks that make them. Very few are making them with these tools, and even fewer still are doing it when people can watch them do it. So I appreciate everybody that's in here. Northwest Missouri, right on. Southwest Alabama. Awesome, guys. Let me see if I can. We're getting closer on a profile here, and we're starting to get a little bit of a ridge built. You can see that ridge, but it's still really thin and flat right in here. So I'm going to bring this in one more time and try to really take some of that flat out of this side, and then we'll start thinking about getting that flute set up. But yes, this is going to be it'll be a deal. All right, let's see. Thank you, Nomad. I appreciate it. Well, we started this one yesterday, and then I tried to rush a flute towards the end of the live. Probably shouldn't have done that, because it altered the back end of this thing. It's going to make it harder to flute. Guys, if you weren't in here yesterday, this was the first flute that came off this piece. I posted a little video of it. You can check it out. But just a killer flute came off there. I didn't even think that it had detached at first. And now I kind of want to do it justice on the other side. So that's why I say I was a little angry at myself that I rushed it yesterday. I should have waited until I set everything up just right. I think I said right before I hit it that it's not quite like I want it, but we're going to give it a try anyway. And I should never say things like that. All right, here I'm going to use like a little anvil stone. And what I'm doing with that is I'm using that to put support on that piece so that I'm not pushing it into the leather in my hand. And it'll make it less likely when I'm trying to pull off these little flakes that I'm not pushing it into the leather and bending it. I'm just flicking those off of the outside edge like that. Quiet on me here. All right, I think this is gonna, not putting too much downward pressure, just clean up these little deltas. Virtual nap in. I may not nap, but I might drop in just to see what's up, Jake. I've been curious about how to do that, and I'd rather try to do it when I can watch what's going on maybe and kind of get a feel for it. But yeah, I'd be interested in trying that. What time are you thinking? Awesome, Dennis. That'd be cool. Everybody just coming in, welcome in. If you got a question, ask a question. Let me know where you're from. You having some coffee this morning, getting ready to go to work, getting off work? Yeah, Jake, what time were you thinking on that? So I can try to be somewhat prepared. One of the things I always forget when I'm working on these is just how small a point they are. And you think, oh, it's getting too small and it's not gonna, and then I keep looking at the profile and I'm still, between an eighth and, well, more like 3/16 of an inch wide at the base right now. So it's going to be smaller than that, and I'm already sitting here going, man, this thing's getting small, but it's not even small enough yet. The kind of technology that went into such a tiny little projectile is insane to me. All right, we're going to start nibbling back into the base. And Jake, I'm in, okay. Okay, Wednesday. Well, that'd be fine. What have you been a bad boy, Jake? Is that what's happened? I was just telling Dennis a while ago, I got like a restrictive deal on my, and I can't imagine what it was for. I try not to cuss and try not to do things that, is going to lead anybody astray. Dennis said, looked like maybe somebody was, didn't like the numbers that were in here and whatever, but oh goodness, yeah, you can't be telling somebody they're politically incorrect or correct or anything really anymore. That's the problem, is you can't tell anybody anything. I miss a time when we could talk and converse like adults, like humans, even if you have a differing opinion with somebody, to be able to, point and counterpoint with them and not have them, completely lose it on you, I guess. I just, I appreciate good conversation and, all right. And yeah, if somebody could come in and they want to talk about any kind of topic, even if I don't believe in it or agree with it or anything else, I'm completely cool with the fact that you have the right to talk about that if you like. You're not affecting me. You're not causing me any duress or any kind of anything by having a certain belief or a certain feeling about something, and that's cool. That's you're welcome to that, and I don't understand why people get so upset about things. All right. Now each of these successive passes that I'm doing, I'm trying to do finer and finer flakes. What it's doing is giving me a smoother and smoother profile on the other side, so that at the end, what I'm trying to do is the fine little serration flakes, that I don't have these big ridges to run down, and I end up with the signature micro flaking. You can see some of it starting to develop on the sides of that point. We're trying to get that same kind of hollow ground but steep edge on it. Sorry, I missed a couple of comments there. But that is what, Dennis, what makes us, I mean, to me, that's how we learn. If I do, hey, Deer Trail, what's up this morning? It's kind of like the old saying that if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got. If you do the same thing all the time, you're never going to change. And if you never change, all the terrible word that some people don't like, but is evolution, is changing or adapting to what it is. And humans have been doing that since we were human. Good things. All right, I think we're getting closer. I'm going to do one more pass on either side, I believe. Try to really set that ridge. On the original that we're using as a guide, that second flute was substantially thinner, which we're going to end up with something very similar to that on this one, I think, with the way that this ridge is starting to get a little bit better defined. I need to kind of fix my shape on the tip down here, or keep bringing those ears in, because like I said, it's easy to think, man, this thing's getting small, and it's not even where it's supposed to be yet. Oh yeah, that was a good ridge there, good ridge builder. Awesome, Deer Trail. Yeah, I was checking out some of your leather work, man. That's really nice. And it's awesome to start getting some of that Napa material in. That's what I'm going to have to, now that it's cooling off. I haven't been out hunting, Jake. You said it was it was eventful but unsuccessful, or however you worded that. Oh. That coffee is hitting nice this morning. All right, we're going to do this other side, and then I think that'll get us to a point where we can try to flute it again. And guys, if this is, yeah, I hear you. The TV glass, I mean, it's nice to work, and it's a homogeneous material, and it's predictable and all that fun stuff. But you just get kind of bored working the same stuff all the time. That's why I get a little bit excited from when I get to work material that I don't normally do. I've been gifted a few pieces, and kind of like an old hoarder, I put them in a box. And have I ever had Death Wish coffee? I have not, Deer Trail. Fainter Goat, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. I'll try not to do anything that scares you this morning. Don't want to lose you. But guys, if this content is boring and it's not something we're wanting to do, shout it out there. I don't want to do something that you guys are not interested in watching. This is all work that I can do off camera if it's deemed boring. All right. Deer Trail, I appreciate that. Snappy snaps, absolutely. Guys, thank you. I appreciate that, because like I said, that's the reason I'm doing this. I mean, I nap every day, and I break stuff every day, and I screw up every day. You know, I figured, what the heck, I might as well do that in front of people. All right. Man, I just have just continually, this one is, again, like I said, we're on a journey, we're learning. This was the first attempt at that particular version of this point style. I'm not real happy with this one already. I think we can salvage something nice out of it, or at least, you know, acceptable, but it's not going to be where I want it to be. And we'll work on the next one and try to fix what I did wrong on this one on the next piece. Let's see, there it is. Well, and my goal, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's how we learn is watching other folks and, you know, trying things that are different than what we normally do. And that's what I said. I had to get over the worry, I guess, of being judged. You know, I mean, like I said several times in the live yesterday when we were talking about the Folsoms, the archaeologists that have studied the sites estimate that they broke between 40 and 60% of the points that they were manufacturing. So, you know, if we can end up with anything that remotely resembles that, you know, I consider that a win. If I could get 1 in 4 to work learning, then I'd be happy with that. All right. I think we're ready to finish setting that flute up. Now this one I'm going to try to do a little bit smaller platform, so I can try to get it to release and take a little bit less energy. That one yesterday, you can see I had a really wide platform on that. That's the remainder of what came off, and then that's the underside of how that was set. See if you can get to where the shadows show. But you can see how those like little undercuts on either side of that, how I built in an area to kind of guide that flake in a certain direction. Well, that's what we're trying to end up, and you can see a very similar situation building right there on that. But I got to get on this side up, there's a little bit of weight. I've got to get that off there so that flute or that flake doesn't try to turn into that area. But we are getting closer. So hang in there with me. And I apologize. Like I said, I feel like this has got to be fairly boring for people to watch, but you are hanging in there, so I will continue with it. Keep on keeping on. Now as I go, when I'm trying to reshape the sides, when I'm going back and forth, when I go to the side that I've already fluted, guys, thank you for the gifts. I appreciate that. Very nice and generous of you. But as I go down this side here that I've already fluted, I'm trying not to drive the flakes into the flute channel, but just have them kind of terminate evenly along the margins of it. You can start to see a little bit of the profile. This material doesn't show up. The light kind of hides that channel a little bit. All right. That was the flake I needed over there. taking a little longer on this one. The second flute is, in my opinion, is a little bit more critical because I've lost all the mass that I had in that first flute. So there's nowhere in this piece for any kind of extra energy, so to speak, or vibration to go, but to the side or through the middle. So the thinner that piece gets, that's why I actually had a question from a viewer last night, or commented on my video where I was showing the flute, and I actually made the comment. I said I'm not really an experienced napper. I'm fairly new, but why are you fluting that first, so to speak, instead of last? And when I first started pursuing this, before I started buying the casts and looking at them under magnification and under lighting and looking at the way that those flakes were terminating, I found out, through that research, that flute was taken off early in the process when there was more mass in that rock. Hey, Dennis, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Out there pimping it for me this morning. I appreciate it. But there's a lot more mass in that rock. And it's kind of like what we were saying when we were fluting it. We're trying to trick the rock into thinking it's bigger than what it is. And that mass is what helps to absorb the shock and the energy that's going through there. And it doesn't necessarily give it a place to get, like where it's trying to escape out the side of your point. Let's see, I need a really fine small flaker. So now what I'm going to do is, if you look at the platform, you see how this is really flat across the top of there. But on this one, you can see how they pop these little flakes on either side of that. You see them? Whoop. There's little tiny pop-out flakes right on either side of that platform. Jim, I have tried clay. I've seen a few guys use that. I think there's a guy out there that uses silly putty. Ed Bow is one of those guys. I agree, William. That's the other thing, is to put that much work into it. I mean, it's like I said. I mean, I've got these casts right here. This one just kills me. I say it, almost every time I pull it out of here, but this piece came off of the same side as some of the other examples I got. That was the first flute that they threw down that piece. It broke on the second attempt, but look at the profile on this thing. Why in your right mind would you attempt to flute that? You know what I mean? Jim, the clay, in a way it does, I guess. It isolates it. I also think, and that's where I'm at, William, is that I think the profiles of the piece is what directs that energy. And, I think the clay, I had negative, I don't want to say negative, I had, experience with it that it didn't do as much for me as, because basically what I'm doing with this, what I do with it, with my little fluting jig deal, is I'm holding it into this little, on this piece of wood and holding it like, what's the word I'm looking, stabilizing it. And then with the weight of my hand and the way I'm holding it in there, I'm mimicking adding mass to that little tiny piece. Because, you're having to, we're going to try to take off a flute that's going to be probably 35% of the mass of this point. And that is a huge removal. When you're talking about overall mass and how much of that you're wanting to remove. So I'm gonna get these little ears taken in here. They're gonna come off. There we go. And you'll see as I get finer and finer flaking on this, I'm going to switch to a smaller and smaller tool. Dennis, I have seen that too. I've actually tried where I've got a couple of stakes and put them in the ground and then put a piece of bone between them, set the point on there, and then tried to drive points. And I've seen people use what they call a chest crutch for. All right, awesome, William. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Anytime you can sit down with somebody that can give you a better understanding of something that you're trying to learn, by all means. Even if they're not using the same tools that you use, the concept is basically the same. The setup and the execution may be a little different, but the concept of how the flake detaches and all that stuff is the same no matter what tool you use. The tool gives you I don't want to say an advantage, but if you've got a copper, it really grabs the edge of the stone. And it makes it easier to transfer that energy, I think, into the spot that you're trying to. Sorry, I'm got a spot here that's pretty important. If I get in there, it's going to be a problem. I have now not. Well, I have seen somebody use direct percussion. I can't remember if it was is it Paleo Man Jim Wynn on YouTube? I think I've seen him do one direct percussion. I have done some direct percussion Clovis points, but I have never done one with the Folsom style point. But yeah, Dennis, there's another thing. I got, if you've ever heard of D.C. Waldorf, he actually was fluting some points by sticking them into the ground, like literally burying that point up in the ground and letting the earth around it support it, and then driving the flake off of it. And, like I said, anything that you can do that makes this little rock think it's a big rock is going to help you with. Now, that little flake right there doesn't look like a lot. Get out there where you can see it. But what we're doing with that is that goes right behind where I want that to break. That gives a weak spot for the fracture. You can kind of see, let me so I can get the angle on that. You see that little tiny notch in the bottom of that? Yeah, absolutely. That's what yeah. And I make a few Clovises. If you check out my profile, I did one on a live last week that turned out pretty decent out of some hornstone. All right, now we're going to do that same thing. If you guys appreciate the follows, guys, you see that little notch that I was showing you in the bottom of that one right there? I'm going to do the same thing on the other side to give it a place to break. And it's almost like scoring something. And you can see those two little notches on either side of that. I've got a little spot. What I'm trying to do is make sure that where that tool makes contact is right where I want it to start to detaching from. We're getting ready to give it a shot. Yes, that is correct. Those flakes right there were off the top side of the platform. And I'll show you that from the top, what we're looking at. You can see how those two little flakes are just right off either side of that platform. And that's where I want that crack to initiate. And then we're going to try to get it to run right down this ridge. Now it's a little flat back here on the back. So, it's going to be one of those. I think we called out one the other day an old pool term of poke and hope, but that's why I'm taking so much time to set this as well as I can, hoping that we'll get the best outcome. And if not, it's like I said before, guys, it's just a rock. We're trying to learn. I'm trying to learn. I don't want to say you guys are. may like to sit and watch me try to learn, but I just feel like if I do the same thing I've always done, I'm never gonna get any better. And to me, this is a way for me to get better. All right, it looks about as good as I'm gonna be able to get it, and then we'll see if we can get a successful flute, and then we'll do final shaping on it. All right. We'll lay that in that channel. Yeah, that's laying pretty flat. Now you notice I put like a little bit of leather thong underneath this, right underneath the platform. And the reason I do that is I like to, it supports that platform. It helps hold it together so that at the moment that I strike it, when I put that force into that rock, I want the bulb of that to hold together. The longer it holds together, the more it is able to transfer that energy. I have everything crossed that can be. I don't know, Dennis, you might get me restricted again. You better watch it. All right, we've got that somewhat isolated there, and then we're gonna and we're just gonna wrap down the back of this. Now I don't have that wrapped super tight on the point. I don't want any extra support. I just want to hold it steady. I want it to think that it's a big rock. You know, there's I moved a little bit. All right. It looks pretty all put together there. I think is about as good as we can get it. That's just a little sharp, one spot right there. Any of these little sharp edges, I'm trying to avoid those because, hey Jacqueline, how you doing? Jackie, good morning from Colorado. Thank you for coming in and saying hi to a caveman. We're getting ready to see if we can pull off something here in front of everybody. All right. Let's get a sip of coffee. Kind of collect ourselves, or at least me. All right. I'm going to put that up against there, and as I tap this, you're going to see me tapping on it. What I'm doing is I'm trying to feel that vibration coming out right back here. It's where that force is going from that platform. I don't like it when I accidentally touch that. You put any kind of oil on there from your skin, it can cause that tool to slip. So this is a piece of calcified seashell, and it's almost like chalking a pool cue. I'm thinking Jackie might understand what I'm talking about there. We're really close to the sides of the ears on this one. So, but as I tap that, I'm wanting that force to run right down that point, and I want to be able to feel it in my hand. All right, well, the flute detached. I don't know how good it was, but we'll unveil it together. Dennis, you can start uncrossing everything. No amount of crossing is going to help whatever's in here. Okay, there's that part of it. Oh, we ended up right to the tip, guys. Right to the freaking tip. You can see the flute. This one didn't hold together like the one did yesterday. but we were able to get a flute all the way to the tip on that one. Right on. And like I said, I felt like, look at that. Thank you, Dennis. Jim, I appreciate it. All right, now we're going to go in and do some final setup or final shaping and flaking on this. We're a little bit thicker, and I'm okay with that. You know, we are going to lose a little bit of thickness there, and I'm hoping to come in closer to it. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. It's close. It's not, you know, it's still a little thicker than I'd like, and I did miss that off just a little bit. But I think I can get some of that out in this next pass or two. So, tell you what, guys, it's 9 o'clock. We got a successful flute on this one. A lot of the minor flaking is going to be just a little bit of stuff. I'm going to, what's this, Sheldon? This is a Folsom that I'm working on. This is the example that I was using. This is from Berry County, Missouri. It was a Folsom that was found just north of where I live. It's a cast of it, and I'm trying to replicate that point. You see, as we got into this, you know, we've got a similar channel on this side. We're really close on the profile. It'd just be a lot of little shaping and stuff. So if you guys, now if you want to see me finish it out today, it's probably going to be the rest of the live of me just picking and chipping little flakes off this. You're gonna hold on to it for me, Dennis? Well, I'll tell you what I was thinking about doing, guys, is you know, I'm getting a few more followers to my channel, and I'm wanting to do a giveaway. So if there's something that you know, if that's something you guys, well, if you're interested in, I know that it helps boost a lot of the followers and stuff. So if there's something that I make and you guys call it out and say that'd be a great giveaway, then let me know. This one right now, like I said, I'm not real happy. You know, there's a few things on it that I wish I had done better, but that's why we're doing this. We're trying to learn. So I'm going to set this one aside. I'll do some finish work on it when I can really concentrate. That's the hardest part for me, and I don't mean to be, you know, I'm not trying to be secretive. You guys have seen everything that I've done to this up to this point. It just takes, I'm gonna have to put on, I call them my Mr. Magoo glasses. You can see the magnification on those. I wear readers anyway when I'm working. And when I work on the really super fine stuff, I typically put on I call them my Mr. Magoo glasses. And, you know, it's a lot, there's a lot more like I don't want to say higher concentration, but I'm going to be working. It'd be harder for me to interact with you, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So if it's cool with everybody, I'm going to set this one aside and I'll work on that one off camera, and then I'll show everybody tomorrow when we start the live. Get a little bit more. Can't run out of that stuff. A 3-inch diamond Clovis. Well, awesome, Dennis. Thanks for dropping by, man. Have a good time at your event. Jealous of you sitting around that campfire last night. That was awesome. But thank you for coming in. Yeah, I've got well, if you look on my profile, you'll see some of the Clovises that I've done. I did one last week on live out of some hornstone that turned out really well. So we've got about a little less than an hour. So let's work on, let's start setting a preform, set this little piece here up for the next shot at this one, and then I'll show you the finished how this one turned out. I'll do that tomorrow. This is the piece that I felt like was going to give me the best chance at replicating this piece. I've got plenty of room in it. This is a nice high-grade piece of raw Burlington. Some self-collected stuff from my area. And it's just, we kind of jokingly refer to it as the creamy goodness. It is just a really, really nice, homogeneous rock. For being raw, it's just not very colorful. You know, it's kind of boring. But when this stuff is heated, it turns this almost a fuchsia pink from the iron that's in it. But like I said, when I'm trying to reproduce points that they didn't use heat treating in, then I don't typically use that. There it went. I don't use heat treated material because it wasn't something that they used to make them. And I've got nothing against anybody that wants to use that. Some of the heat treated stuff out there is just beautiful. It makes really pretty points, but it doesn't make really accurate points to the point style and the materials that they were using, or the tools for that matter. But that's just part of my, craziness. I may even work a little bit with, this is a buffalo horn that I've been messing around with to use. I'm using it as a pressure flaker. Marty Reuter, if you check out Flint Knapping Tips or are familiar with him, he uses a lot of buffalo horn punches and pressure work. So I wanted to give it a try. I feel like that was something that they had available, considering they were buffalo hunters. So, all right, let me get back into reduction mode here. Got a spot here that kind of crushed on me a little bit of extra mass. So what we're going to do, see if we can't work around that and get that to detach. I got some of it right there. Doesn't sound right solid this morning. There we go. See, I'm just trying to take these over into the center of this, just adjusting that plane, and you can see how I'm working down that edge right here and how that is raised up now, and I'm working towards this to try to isolate it. Jackie, thank you for the share. I appreciate it. See, there's another one that went through the back side of all that mass that was there. And it just continues to tinator. I will show you in just a second. Let me get this flake right here, because it seems I'm set pretty good. And let me get this one, and I'll do some show and tell of the indirect. And there was the majority of that one. There's just another little piece of it right here. All right, tinator. This is just a modified shaft punch is what it is. I've got a deer antler tine, and I've got some bases that I use. Let me get it back over here for a second and get this off here. That I drilled out, and then I put it on into this old Osage bow that I made years ago, and I modified this just to where I've got several different tips that will fit on here so I can change them out for different size stuff. This is just a leather bag with, this is about 10 pounds of weight. There's a hematite piece in here. And then the bow is just set up against the wall here in my napping area. When I'm outdoors, the end of it is sharpened. I've got that little leather ball on it right now because the area that I'm indoors. But when I'm outside, I can just jam it into the ground to give me that back pressure. If you've checked out like Marty Reuter flint napping tips, it's really where, you know, I got introduced to that, to the shaft punch, and I tried to use a similar setup that he did, but I was injured on the job several years ago and hurt my back, and using it or utilizing it the way he did was causing me all kinds of back and hip issues. So I modified it to where at first I started off with a strap instead of that weight that went under my foot so I could step down on it and hold it in place. Absolutely, man. Copy away. That's what this is about. This is about sharing information. I'm not trying to hide anything from anybody. I want you guys to learn and to get better right along with me. You know, that's the goal of this. So, you know, complete transparency. So feel free, if you give me a follow. I use this a lot. Now, there's a few point styles that I don't. But yeah, thank you for the follow. And that way you'll get notified. Send me a message. If you're setting one up and you're having some issues, I might be able to give you some pointers on things that will help you with it. So feel free to do that. All right. Now there's the last little bit of where that crushed out on us. And we've got just a little bit of a ridge right here to follow on that. I'm not trying to take a big flake. I'm just trying to kind of blend in that area where I had a flake terminate funny. And you can see, it's all I wanted was just a little blend flake right over the top of that ridge. Just enough to adjust that and keep bringing that down. We've still got just a little bit right here. So I'm gonna tap back just a little bit. Just nibbling back on that edge. I just want a spot, like right here, you can see just enough to where I can grab that and get that little bit of crushed stuff off the edge. Just like that. Right now I'm just contouring this end that's eventually going to be our base, I think, the way it's... Hey, Don, good morning. Glad to see you in here. Just got in. I set up and ran the second flute this morning. Got one to go all the way to the tip on this side. And I'm going to kind of clean that up and share that during tomorrow's live. I'm going to do that off camera. There's going to be a lot of tedious flaking work. So I didn't want to bore you guys, you know, to tears with that. I'm kind of counteracting the coffee this morning. Be a rhino dart to the neck for everybody just getting up to watch me bang on rocks. So, all right, now on this edge, you can see how this area is already a little bit dropped down and we're kind of thin up and through here. I don't want to drive flakes into this area here that's already flat. All I'm going to do is just take downward ones. I'm trying to build some convexity and work my way up to this spot. If you dive right in on this spot without doing the rest of the setup, what you end up with is a ripped out spot, usually in a weakened area. And then you have to go back above that to the end and try to take off material. You almost never, unless you have no other way around it, you want to thin the ends before you get the center thinned. And you'll see as I'm working that, how right now the mass that we've got is right here, but otherwise it's pretty uniform. And I'm going to try to narrow these ends or thin the ends a little bit more, and that's what sets up those big removals that'll flatten out the face. So like I said, we're not trying to remove a lot, just a little. Just like that. Just little contour flakes, not. Now that one went farther than I wanted it to. It was right off the edge of that main platform. It's all right though. Come on. I'm having trouble getting. There it went. I was trying to hook onto that platform and it kept sliding off of it. I will, Don, give me just a second. I just shared that with somebody else. Let me reset this edge and then I'll show it. To kind of set it up, what it is it's a modified shaft punch. But instead of having it under this leg and over this one, which you're kind of setting down that, what it does, that turns my hips, and after my injury, that kind of a motion is just really uncomfortable for me to sit for any length of time. So what I did was I used an old bow that I had that had made a noise when I was shooting it one day, like a real loud crack, but it didn't come apart. But I have had one of these come apart. Your leg's black and blue from the bopper. It will do that until you get used to it. But this has got a weight that's suspended from this old bow, and then on the end of it I've got this leather ball, or just stuff balled up, and that's set against the wall here in my napping area. I call it the KVO. When I'm outdoors, I can remove that little leather ball, and it's pointed, it's shaved like this one is on the end, and I just jam it into the ground and then put like a big rock over the top of it just to kind of keep it from continuing to drive into the ground. And or I put a rock in the hole that I'm going to put it in, and it kind of stops it, because all you're wanting is a back pressure. You're wanting something that you can push against, that when you hit it, it's not rebounding away from the energy. It's holding and going through that spot. Because I get very little impact through my leather on my leg, and like I said, I do this a lot, so it will definitely keep you from beating your leg up so bad. Not to mention, it's a lot easier to direct the force of the energy that you're putting through that rock. When I put this up against the tip of the tool, the direction that I want that flake to go, I try to make sure that directly across that piece is where my support's at. So if I'm trying to drive a flake at this angle, then I want to make sure that this back edge back here is supported, so that the energy of that will flow right towards that support. And that's why when we're fluting, we have to be careful where you're putting support, because that energy will run right to it. See, that one just cleared across the top of that face, and you can see how that starts to really affect the profile of the piece. Guys, welcome in. If you're new to the to the live. Welcome. Drop me a comment where you're from, what you're up to this morning. And all this is, and you guys have seen it when I was working on the profiles for that last Folsom that we did. You just go back and forth. It's the same concept if you're using indirect, if you're doing pressure, if you're doing anything, is you work one side, get it flat, work to the other side, and then you start building in your convexity, your point, your flake patterns. So you can see how that flake pattern is starting to set up along that edge. And you can see the profile is getting elliptical or lens shaped from front to back and from edge to edge. Right on. Ernesto, and thank you for stopping in from Naples, Florida today. Lower Arkansas. Hey, no problem, Brizzo. I've seen you on here quite a bit. I'm working some of that Novaculite. That's just a little down south of where I'm from, but I have worked a little bit of that. I've got several friends that are down in that area. What part of Lower Arkansas are you in? Judging from the Novaculite, somewhere near Hot Springs-ish, maybe? Deer Trail, hey man. No pressure. You can listen all you want. That's what it's for. Try to say something that might help people, or like I said, I'm trying to avoid being the tranquilizer dart to the room. Oh, that one stopped on me. I was worried about that flake before I hit it, and I ended up hitting it a little harder than I should have. Crushed that platform. So I set up on the other side of it just far enough where I think I can hook into it here and take off what I just screwed up. Thank you for the follows, guys. I appreciate it. Okay, let me reorient myself. All right. See, and we just kind of came around the back side of that issue. There's still a little bit there, but I think we can get that on subsequent passes. There's no sense in chasing something like that when it's not set up for it, if you're going to have to naturally go back that way anyway. So just in the course of making the point, eventually you're going to have to turn back to that side, and when I do, there's a little bit of a ridge here that I can get it from. Actually, I might be able to get some of it right here. Yeah, there's a little bit more of it, but there's still a step right there. I think it'll come out on after the next go round. Because like I said, the natural progression of this, I'm gonna flake down here, take flakes this side, and then it'll naturally bring this spot back up closer to this face where I want to remove that little step that I got in there. So otherwise, we're getting a nice lenticular section. We've got some, nice profiles on the edges, and then from base to tip, we're starting to get a little bit more of a lens shape, which is what we're going for, like a flattened lens. With the Folsoms, you want to get them thin, but you don't want to get thin too fast and get them flat where you have to go back in and rebuild convexity, because at the end of the day we want convexity somewhat for the channel flakes, the flute flakes to run down. So you're trying to get a flattened ellipse that you can run flakes down. And that was a nice series right there. You can see how those just ripped all the way down through there. And that's what happens once you start getting regular edges like that, and you can start throwing those in there. And now you can see we're getting that. This is what we're trying to get down to and imitate. So I'm gonna start bringing this in, start setting this edge up here, and start thinking about getting ready for that first flute removal once we get a little bit more refined. But I do like the way this is setting up for that. So guys, thank you for the follows. I appreciate it. Had an idea earlier, or when I was getting prepared for this morning, yesterday, the way things kind of timed out, not the last 10 or 15 minutes, probably the last 10 minutes or so, you know, I'm not going to be able to really do much as far as demonstrate when you've got just a little bit of time. I just hate to be in the middle of something and then tell everybody bye. So what I'd like to do is, like the last 10 minutes or so of the live, you know, if you've got any questions, stuff that you want to ask me, and I'll just give full attention to the comments section here. Danny, right on. You're looking at trying to get, like, I'll show. This is where we just took those flakes from, and you can see how it's almost got a little bit of a hollow ground or a flat area. And we've got more mass on this side. You can see that from the profile. After each series that I take, you're looking, as you're working back and forth, you're trying to keep that edge straight, but then once you get the profiles or the contours right, that's when I go back in and do my final straightening and shaping. That's why, like I said, on this one here, I've got some more stuff to do on it, and it takes me a lot more concentration to be able to keep that edge straight and start shaping it. But that's what it amounts to, is you're just identifying which side has got the mass, and you're just moving back and forth to that edge, but just be conscious that you're trying to keep that edge straight as you do it. That's why, like I said a while ago, we've got this step fracture right here that's close to the edge. It's a little closer now because that last pass that I made actually took material away that's now going to set us up to where we can go back and get it. So that's part of keeping your edges straight, is not going after something just because it's there. You're trying to be mindful of your contours. You know, if you take a big honking flake, you bet, Danny, I appreciate the question. Like I said, here in about, I don't know, another 20 minutes or so, I'll kind of shut down everything, and we'll just have a BS session, question and answer, whatever kind of stuff, if you guys want to do something like that. But yeah, as I'm trying to keep this, get it elliptical, I'm also trying to keep an edge straight. So you just back and forth, and then just be mindful of where your edge is at. So there was a nice contouring flake just right over the, I'm trying to build a ridge in the center of this. That's my end goal on this, is to have a preform that's got an accentuated, see that one went towards the middle, but it, spin that around. It got in towards the middle, and then it stopped, and I'm trying to accentuate that ridge. And we're also working our way up to that little stepped out spot that I mentioned earlier. See, again, that just went just to the top of that ridge, and it's trying to keep it as even as I can. Jacqueline, yes, I do. We've got an Etsy shop set up. I think the link is in my bio if you guys would like to check them out. I'm not on here, you know, trying to be a salesperson, but yeah, if you're interested in my work, go check out my Etsy shop. It is New Age Neanderthal. I've got quite a few pieces in there right now, and check it out. I've got some finished stuff on my profile that's also available in my Etsy shop, so go give it a check out. Thank you for asking about that. I appreciate it. All right, we got work our way up through here. See, there's another nice flake just to the center. Just trying to accentuate that. And now what we've got, if you see, there's kind of a ridge that leads from here just diagonally up towards this little spot that we got that we're trying to get out of there. You can see the edge of that. So what I'm going to do is turn my tool just a little bit, and I'm putting that pressure. It's kind of like we were talking a while ago. I'm going to put the tip of it right on that platform, and I'm going to push and have that support directly behind where I want that force to run. I got my finger underneath the platform to help hold it together. Let's see here. And there's the flake. There's just a little remnant. Looks like I had like a rollout or a step fracture on that, but that cleared that spot up. Now I can take a couple here to blend those in, and we're starting to look really good on our profile. All right, one more off the front. Now we'll do the same thing from this other side. There's a little flake there that needed to go. As I'm working this, sometimes I'm just taking what I call opportunistic flakes. As you're working it, you'll see a platform set up that's got a spot that needs to be removed, and you just happen to be at the right spot for that at the right time. And by all means, take those flakes, but just don't eat into your material and waste material trying to get to a spot that you're going to have to get to anyway during the course of making the piece. Guys, welcome in. If you're new in here, drop me a comment. Let me know where you're at, what you're up to this morning. Thank you for coming in and having a cup of coffee with a caveman. All right, there's a little spot up here. I think I'm going to start from the base. And work my way towards the tip. Oh, that one stepped a little bit, kind of ripped out a little bit of our side. I had too powerful a platform and too big a bite. It's all right. Luckily enough that the piece that we're trying to replicate is not a big point. I always kind of cringe when I have a flake like that because I think, oh crap, I just ruined it. But at the end of the day, I've got a long ways to go before. So, hey Brian, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Good to see you guys in here this morning. All right, we're starting to get closer to that profile. This is where we're trying to get to, is about this thickness, and then I'll start tapering the base in and start thinking about setting up for the first flute attempt. Probably will be fluting it tomorrow, just guessing, but we'll get everything set up for that today, and then we'll do maybe a little question answer session at the end. I'm going to do some pressure plate setup on this one to get us kind of lined up. Now, you got to watch Sleepy Oak last night? Awesome. Yeah, I checked him out for a little bit. I was in there I was watching Dennis's live too, and he was having some kind of connection issues. It was lagging or buffering or whatever the term they call it. It was skipping pretty bad. But yeah, I caught some of Sleepy Oak's live last night too. And I was trying to figure out who it was. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for subscribing, Jackie. I appreciate that. Got to come up with some kind of, special swag now for my subscribers. But I'm working on a few things, guys. If anybody's interested in, we've got working on some coffee mugs to see if you guys would be interested in some of those. Those should be examples of that coming up here before too long. All right, we may need to take one more bigger flake off the back of this one. It's going to be a little bit bigger than I can pressure flake off. Now I was trying to look and see who it was earlier that asked about keeping the edge straight. Well, if you look at that as I'm going down through there, that edge is not, it's kind of gotten a little bit wonky and out of sorts. So what I do is, you look at that, you can see those lowered areas, right? Well, those lowered areas coincide with mass on this other side, but when you take those, it brings those back in line with this other stuff, so you just keep working back and forth. See, where I had that big piece come out a while ago that I said I wasn't really happy with, that lip flake, it's almost blended back into the piece where it doesn't even look like it was ever an issue to begin with. Guys, thank you for the follows and the likes and the shares and the subscriptions and the comments. I appreciate it more than you know. It's awesome. All right. Right, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Guys, if you're in here and you like the content, you want to be able to find me again, hit that follow button and you'll be notified when I go live. And that way you can come in and not miss a second of this exciting broadcast. It's just crazy to me sometimes, like I said, this is something I've had a passion for a long time. I really, really love primitive skills, flint knapping in particular, but I do all, primitive fire making and basketry and pottery and other, hardstone crafts. The other day I was showing Sleepy Oak had asked me about some of my hardstone, groundstone work, and I absolutely love the community, and the folks that I meet most of the time in it are just some of the best there is. So I appreciate you coming in and sharing a little bit of time with me, and at least showing some interest in what I'm doing. So I appreciate it. All right, we're going to take one more indirect flake here off of this one. Got this spot right here. It's lowered down edge just a little bit, and I've got a little area of mass, and you can kind of see that ridge that it's fallen. Well, you guys had said you liked this before. I can show it a little bit easier. Here's my platform right there, and I want this flake to go right down into that area of the point. I don't want it to go really far. I don't want it to thin that too much. I just want it to taper in and contour that. Some people call it like a blending flakes or a contour flake. And that's all we're looking for out of that. Not a big removal, just a nice little easy, just like that. See, that's just what we were wanting. Went right down that ridge, right to this center. Had a little bit of it tapered off, but it didn't give me a big removal. You can see it just flattened that out and went right to it. And that's what we were looking for out of that. All right. Getting really close to the right contour. Now bring the end in a little bit. Try to be a little bit more proactive on this, on round 2 on this one, to get closer to the profile that I'm wanting for that fulsome that we're trying to make. And all I'm doing here, these are just little trim flakes that I'm just taking to try to adjust the edge of the piece to get it like a convexity contour started on there. You can see how it's starting to get like a rounded edge, and we're getting like an elliptical shape, and that's really what we're trying to get to. So eventually, like I said, we'll probably get into the final shaping tomorrow and get set up for the flute. Right now I'm just working on the contours of the piece. Actually, this one here is getting much closer to this end is really stout, and it doesn't need to be. Idaho Wade, welcome in this morning. Guys, thank you so much for the gifts and the likes and all that. I appreciate it. We've got a little bit of an area of thickness here where there's a little bit of that original cortex left. You can kind of see how steep that is. And there's this little spot right here that I'm not real fond of. So I'm going to try to come off this edge and push a flake right across the top. You can see a little bit of that ridge, but it's not super isolated, and it's got some chattery stuff on it. I'm just going to try to pull the top of that off. So I'm going to in, and I'm pushing, and that I've got it kind of pushed up against that leather. That's my support. And that one didn't go, it just went a little short, but right next to it, and you can see that lightened area right there. That's where that flake removed. Just what we were trying to do. Just trying to adjust that so it's not quite as steep or bulky right there. See that flake? You saw that one jump out of there. So that's what we're looking for. There's another one. That's much more like what we're looking for. Now you can start to see that. Grism, good morning. You can start to see that angle and the way that that's built, and then I'm going to come in and take out flakes on either side to accentuate that. And then we'll do the setup on either side of that ridge. Grism, I think you were in here yesterday. One of the ones that wanted to see me set up and do that. If you didn't make it in earlier, I was able to get a full flute on the other side of that piece, and I kind of asked the room, and it takes me a lot of concentration and patience to get the flaking and everything contours right, so I'm going to work on that off camera, and then tomorrow's live I'll share that with everybody if that's cool. now we're going to do the first series of the what I call them rip flakes. I don't know, they're just a really hard downward force that's pulling off the edge of the piece, and you end up with these like a hollow ground. You can see they're not traveling into that mass, they're pulling out right next to it and then feathering into it. Idaho Wade, if I already did the flutes this morning. Yeah, Grizzle, I actually, I'll go back and do another, once we're done with the live, I'll download the footage and I'll put another clip of the flute itself, not all the boring lead up to it. But Idaho Wade, if you check out my profile, I've got several finished, or clips that show what I'm doing and how I'm using this setup. It's, then again, if you tune in tomorrow, I'm going to be fluting this one on live also. So if you want to see me do that live, then tune in. Let's see, we got another 5 minutes here before we do a little. Awesome, man. Looking forward to seeing you here. If you don't already follow me, hit that follow button and you'll get a notification when I go live. That way, if you do want to be in here and you don't miss it, just a second of the excitement. Come on back in the morning, have a cup of coffee and chill for a little bit. All right. I think I've got time to do one more set down this side. And then we'll pick it back up at the same place tomorrow. Now I do have a little ways to go on the width of this. You can see how actually it'll be oriented like that. That's how I'm trying to set this, is very similar to that. So now I've got that edge angle, or that base angle set similar to the original. I've just got to work on isolating that ridge down the center. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the support and you guys that come back in here. Awesome, Deer Trail. Hey, absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I appreciate the support, guys, and the viewership, whatever the term is called. I really do appreciate it. Something I love to do, and to be able to share it with people that have an interest in it also is just, I really like it. So thank you, guys. All right. All right. Now on these flakes, I'm not trying to get them to run in. I'm trying to imitate those big hollow ground. I call them rip flakes. And the first pass usually consists of just getting that contour where they'll start really ripping across there. And this is the part for me that is the most physically taxing, is because I'm trying to take these big removals, or really stout flakes off of this platform. And we're trying to imitate those flake signatures. And that's after my first pass. Now I'll reset and do another pass, and it'll get me a little bit more convexity. I got a spot right here that I need to get that out of there on this pass, though, or it's going to start causing some issues. And it went in there and stopped. That's okay. We'll get it on the next go round. I got a couple of minutes here. I'm going to do the last side of this, and then we'll stop for questions and answers and reset and all that good stuff. So now that one, if you hear that crushy noise like that, that means that your platform busted away, it was too weak, and you've crushed your platform because the angle was wrong, it wasn't set up strong enough, whatever it may be. But that's usually how you end up with the chattery step type flakes. You want it just like that, one clean pop. And when you get that kind of removal, you've got a really, usually a nice clean flake scar. I don't know if you can see, I hold that up off of there's a little pocket underneath there. I'm trying not to make contact with the flake as it comes off. And that allows it to feather out kind of naturally. They don't all, but the majority of them will go out there and just kind of feather into the center. All right, that's after now I kind of covered up some of that flaking with the little small pick flakes on there, and I'll do the same on this side. You can see how it's almost sawtooth looking. That's the distance between each of those flakes that I pulled off there. And if you see the profile, I did the same thing over here, but then I went back and picked those flakes. And you can see how it's already started giving me like an oval or lens shape. So what we'll do, we'll go to this side, do the same thing, and then reset, and the next series should give me a profile that's very, very similar to this. That's our end goal. And you can see that these flakes didn't quite go to the center. I want them to really accentuate that center ridge. So that being said, it'll be another setup. I'll set that stuff aside, and thank you, Jackie. I appreciate that. Good morning, Terry. Man, I just kind of getting everything shut down here. Give you a recap. If you missed earlier, I don't know, yesterday if you were in here, we pulled this flute off the first side of that the Folsom that I was working on. That's the first side, and then set up this morning and was able to run another flute down. I'm trying to get it to where the light will show you. You can see it. It went from the base to the tip. And then I'm going to go in and do the final flaking and shaping on this. Been covered up. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Glad you're in here now. But I'm going to do a lot of that work. Is going to be really tedious and probably, not near as fun as my normal content to watch. So I'm going to do that off camera and try to share that tomorrow with everybody. But tomorrow morning, we're going to set up and do this, continue working on this. We're using this piece of Burlington. I'm trying to get, this is a cast of an original artifact, and I'm trying to get to that profile. That's what I'm working towards in the process of trying to replicate that point right there. So, guys, if you've got any suggestions or stuff that you'd like to see, any questions, it's my favorite tool to use. I have several that I like the indirect, and I use it quite a bit, but I use that more out of necessity and self-preservation. It helps me do a lot of work that normally would have been a lot harder physically for me to do. But I have to say my favorite tool is just a simple hammerstone. I've been threatening to do it. I've done a few pieces where I've made a finished point with just one tool, without any pressure flaking or any other tool, just one hammerstone, one piece of rock, and make a completed Clovis point. I fluted it with the hammerstone and everything. In my opinion, knowledge of how to use that right there, just a hammerstone and a good piece of rock, you can make functional tools with nothing more than that. If you're looking to make, like if you're into the survival aspect or the primitive skills aspect of that, Let me see if I've got a piece of rock over here that we can just take a spall off of somewhere. These are just a few pieces of rock that I've got set aside for our little Folsom challenge that we're working on. And it's a rough piece of rock, but thank you, Idaho Wade. I appreciate it. We're going to work this rock a little bit later in the week, but this is some petrified. This is Rainy Buttes petrified wood, and it is some really, really cool stuff to work with. But I am inexperienced with it. I don't get to work what I call exotic materials very often. So, but yeah, just with a hammerstone, you can remove a razor blade off of this that will cut just as well as any modern knife. And when you're done with it, you can drop it. You don't have to carry it around. You just pick up a rock, hit it with another rock, and you've got another blade. So that one might be able to salvage a little small point out of that. So to me, in the grand scheme of things, just a simple hammerstone. Oh, you learned from Bill Metcalf. Awesome, Grism. That's awesome. Yeah, like I said, that's, to me, I probably should do a little bit more concentration with this, and working on it more. But this is what I started off with. And I really do like the early stage, pre-forming and that kind of stuff. That seems to be where a lot of us get, hung up. And we like to make, I would venture to say that of the flint knappers that are in here, you've got a bucket of preforms sitting somewhere because you like to make preforms. Shout out if I'm right. But it's the finish work, and after you get into it, it's where you can make or break, so to speak, the point. Yeah, there you go, 5 or 6 buckets. I mean, hey, awesome. I'm glad that Betsy, that's cool. I really love flint knapping, and I love the community. Typically, the people that I meet in it are some of the finest that I've ever met. So I appreciate you guys coming in this morning and spending some time watching me. For those of you just getting in here, I'm sorry. I'm getting ready to call it end of the live, but I will be back on tomorrow at 8 o'clock Central. If you want a notification of that, hit the follow up there at the top. Give me a follow, and that way you'll be notified when I go live. If there's anything you guys would like to see on future lives, any kind of content, let me know. Send me a comment or a request for, absolutely. Take care. Thank you. I appreciate it, Jacqueline. That's nice of you to say. I really enjoy this, guys. It's something that I have a passion for, and to be able to share it with people that have an interest in it also, it really does, it makes my day. So thank you guys for that. But like I said, if you want to, get notified, all that type of stuff when I go live, just hit the follow button, and I'll be back on. I'm on here 8 o'clock in the morning Central from Monday through Friday. I know that's when a lot of you are at work, but if you get a chance to stop in, say hi, have a cup of coffee on a coffee break, whatever, I encourage you to do that. So if you guys would give me a follow. I'll see you tomorrow. Those of you that new to the deal, sorry I'm leaving right now, but have a great day, and thank you for coming in and having coffee with the Caveman.